Kyler Staley from the Hoosier.com with us. The Hoosiers 1-0 on the basketball season after knocking off Morehead State the other night. 88-53, I believe, was the final score. Something along those lines. A game that Hoosiers started out strong. Morehead State hit some threes, kept it interesting. Indiana wasn't even really attempting threes because they didn't have to, because they were shooting 60% from the field and just overmanned Morehead State. Tonight, they take on Bethune-Cookman, a team that kind of got obliterated by an Iowa team the other night, but Iowa's a different. They like to get out and run, score a lot of points. What are you expecting tonight, Kyler?
Well, when I look at Bethune-Cookman, did a little research on them. I think they're kind of a worse off team than Morehead State was. So, obviously another easier game for Indiana, I would say. The main things that Indiana's got to work on, we got to see if their free throw shooting gets better. That's one of the main things. And then one thing that really surprised me last game was their rebounding was pretty close with Morehead State. I think at the end of the buzzer, or the final buzzer, it was like 33-28 in favor of Indiana as far as rebounding. Indiana should never be that close, especially when you're going up against a team like Morehead State or Bethune-Cookman. That front court's too loaded.
I will say, though, part of this is because Indiana shot such a high percentage as well, though. They didn't have as many opportunities for offensive rebounds.
Right, yeah. So that's one thing I'm kind of looking for. And I think Indiana's going to come out and play in a faster pace this time. The starting group, I feel like there was times at Morehead State where they were a little lackadaisical at times. Kind of going through the motions, but that second unit is so strong and it provides such a spark. All 4 of the guys that come in and make up that 9-man rotation that we saw. They bring a lot of energy to that game. So, tonight I just see Indiana playing at a faster pace. A lot of the same things that we saw from Morehead State, and we'll just see if they can knock down those shots at the line tonight.
One of the things that's going to be interesting, Kyler, is the exhibition games and then a Morehead State. Those teams obviously did not match up size-wise against Indiana, and I agree with you. This shouldn't be much of a problem, but the nice thing is Indiana's going to see Bethune-Cookman has, I think, 4 or 5 guys on their roster that are 6'9" or taller. So this is a little bit of a team with a bigger interior presence. I feel like this is a time, maybe the first time this season. I know they've only played 2 exhibitions in one game, but where maybe 3-point shooting, we might find a little bit more out about that as well, because maybe they don't quite get as dominant in the paint as they can because they're going to deal with some bigger bodies. Is that something you're looking for tonight, or do you think that they're still going to try to go inside against Bethune-Cookman?
I think at least to start, you'll see some inside-out play and everything. Indiana did a really good job finding Miller Kopp last game to get some open looks, and he was really, really good knocking down those open looks. So I think they start off the game as kind of the inside-out approach. That's how they've started every game, ever since Mike Woodson's took over. You kind of have to give the ball to the big fella. Trace Jackson-Davis, he has to get a touch every possession for the most part. But I expect them to go with that kind of route, that kind of game plan. But I also like to see them, scoring a bunch in transition this game. And finding Miller Kopp. Miller Kopp did a great job shooting the outside jumper in transition, which is one of the hardest 3-point shots you can take. I expect that. And, obviously you'll just see kind of how the backcourt kind of adjusts to that. I could see a big game from Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino as well. So I expect them to go inside out to start off. They might have to adjust when it comes down to halftime.
In the last game, Indiana, looking at some stats, if you took away the 3-point shooting, which wasn't really horrible, they were 4 of 11. If they had been 4 of 10, 40%, you'll take that almost every game. But if you take away the 3-point shooting, Indiana, they shot 66%, 666 for the game. That's just pretty damn high. You're going to win a lot of games like that. But the free throws, like you mentioned, that's just horrific. 57%, 12 of 21. That's atrocious. And Malik Renew, 50%. Man, he had 6 opportunities, only had 3 of them. Jalen Hood-Schifino, he had 4 attempts, only hit 1 of them, 25%. That one was the surprising one. Hopefully that's something you don't see very often. The Jalen Hood-Schifino will get locked in. I think Malik Renew is someone that will get locked in. I don't think that he is going to be problematic. Trace Jackson Davis, 3 of 5, gave a little scare, but he got things going. But that's where the misses came from. Ironically, it was Jalen and Malik who missed six free throws just between those two guys right there. So that's the only bad thing that they've done this year.
Right. And, games like this, Morehead State, Bethune-Cookman, that's not too worrisome. But, down the stretch, you saw last year, free throws were a killer for Indiana. They probably could have won 2 or 3 more games based off free throw shooting alone. That's just something, especially with Malik Renew, Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, those guys that play primarily in the paint. Those guys are going to have to be a lot more consistent than what they showed on Monday. They've got to knock down these shots, especially Trace Jackson Davis, because he's going to get to the line at least maybe 5 times a game, somewhere around there, especially when you get into Big Ten play as well. But that's some worrisome for Mike Woodson right now, and I think right now the fans are a little bit concerned about that. But I mean, they've got time to kind of make it up and everything. If they have a really good showing from the line tonight, I think that'll calm a little bit of nerves, heading into Xavier next week, that's the real first test. So we'll just see how they kind of adjust to that tonight.
Well, and to that point, I feel like, obviously free throw shooting, because it doesn't matter who you're playing. You should always want to strive to, to shoot free throws well. So I understand that point. But I also feel like, we talk about, maybe Indiana missed some shots. Maybe they weren't quite as dominant. Morehead State is one of the better teams in their conference. They were 23-11 last year. Even though, yes, Indiana beat them the way they should, it wasn't like they played Chicago State, which is notoriously bad, and they are lucky to win 4 or 5 games every year. I think this was a quality opponent. Indiana did what they're supposed to. Are there things that they can improve on? Absolutely. But I think that you beat a pretty solid mid-level team by 35 points. I think free throw shooting, obviously, yeah, you want to clean that up. But everything else, I think for your first game of the season, to play a quicker team that plays probably a different style of basketball than what you do, I was impressed with that win.
Right. And, IU is going to have to get used to playing guys that play a different style if they want to have a deep run in the NCAA tournament. And Morehead State was exactly it, and you'll see probably a different style with Bethune-Cookman tonight. That's what Mike Woodson, added, the Kansases, the North Carolinas, those teams like that. They want to see different style of play other than, the beat you up inside the paint Big Ten, every year. That's what's killed it, like Indiana going in, or any Big Ten team going into the NCAA tournament. They're so used to the Big Ten style of play that they just can't adjust to, the Oregons, the Kentuckys, the things like that play a different style, a more athletic style, really. So yeah, Morehead State, no knock on them. They're a tough team. Should be one of the top teams in their conference this year. They had a lot of turnover from last year, but tough team. But Bethune-Cookman, from what I see, I don't think they'll provide that much of a challenge tonight, as Morehead State kind of did at the start of the game. But you never know. But, it's all about repetition at this point. You're playing the teams that are just going to help you, further down the line.
Bethune-Cookman is also a team that they just, like I said, they just got thrashed by Iowa. They're out playing a bunch of these teams. They're one of these teams that they're making money right now. Basically, they're going and playing at these schools and making money for their programs. These teams get tired too, because they basically, their preseason, their non-conference portion of teams like Bethune-Cookman and Morehead State, that's the big time of their season, because they're playing the Indianas and the Iowas and all these Big Ten teams or SEC teams. They're playing their biggest games of the year now. I'm not saying they're the most important for them, because once they get into their own conference, that'll be important. But these are the biggest games of the year. They're getting to go to whether it's Fog Allen or Simon Scott Assembly Hall or Rupp Arena or the Dean Dome. They're getting to go to these places and playing these games, but they do it a lot. And like you saw Morehead State the other night, they played hard. Well, that's got to get tiring when you do that 3 nights a week in these types of environments. So, but Indiana needs these types of games to start getting themselves acclimated. You've got Xavier comes right after this game. Then that's a road game. And then you've got a couple of more to stretch out. And then it gets serious, man. You got North Carolina and Arizona and Kansas, it's going to get for real for fast.
Yeah, and these are the games where you got to kind of make these adjustments. You got to work on the things that you're looking to improve on. Xavier comes in next week. Xavier's going to be that's going to be a tough game for them. A road environment. You're going to really, truly see, in my opinion, what this Indiana team is made of, right here, right now, at this early in the season. Xavier's going to provide a challenge. You've got Sean Miller there. You've got Jerome Hunter, former Indiana Hoosier as well. So it'll be a very interesting matchup, but I think you're going to learn a lot about this Indiana team, at least early this season, based on how they perform next week. Probably not tonight, but next week's more important than tonight.
Is it?
Creek Walker pointing out that Iowa put up 33 3-point shots on this team. Indiana put up 11 the other night against Morehead State. Just a something of note. It will depend on the matchup. Like I said, I asked that question to Mike Woodson, and he said we didn't need to shoot threes. They shot, like I said, 66% from the field. You don't need to shoot threes.
They don't. That's what I was going to ask Kyler. I mean, to me, I understand Mike Woodson's thought there because you don't need to, but at the same time, don't you want to try to get your guys into a rhythm, get some early confidence, because you're going to need to shoot threes against Xavier. You're going to need to shoot threes against North Carolina. Like, that has to be a weapon. They don't have to shoot 33 threes like Iowa did, but I'd like to see that number closer to probably 20. Wouldn't you, Kyler? Or am I out of left field there?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And like I said, I mean, if I was a coach, obviously I'm not Mike Woodson, so I really don't know what I'm talking about. But but I mean, for a game like this, I'd like to see that. I think this is kind of an extended practice game in a way. I think you get to play another group of guys that aren't your own teammates, so you get to work on some things. And I would like to see them work on a little bit more. Try to set up Miller Cobb, try to set up a Jalen Hood-Schifino, a Tamar Bates, someone like that at the 3-point line. Let's just see, because
Miller
is
Kopp
working or not. Miller Kopp.
Miller Kopp has to have. He hit the 2 shots. He hit 3-point shots he hit the other night were in the second half. I don't think he attempted a shot in the first half.
Only one. It was a baseline jumper. One? Yeah.
Okay. Well, he caught the ball in transition out on the wing. Perfect. Looks down, checks his feet, sets his feet, drills it. 2 plays later, same exact play. Checks, sets, checks, drills it. They need to set up more plays like that where you're getting Miller Kopp open, especially in the flow of I think he's a much better shooter in the flow than when it's set, but they have to get him more shots. I mean, his shot is looking a lot more confident. In pregame warmups, I was watching him. He was getting the ball off quick. The team entirely looks like they really have worked on getting their shots off quicker. Their drills, a lot of the drills I watch them go through are about getting their shots, getting to their spot and getting their shots up quicker. And I've seen Miller Kopp do that and looking a lot smoother, but just not take him, which is on one hand, you're like, oh, it's great. He's not forcing things. I was surprised that there weren't more 3 attempts the other night because there was a couple that could have been taken that weren't forced, but still weren't taken. So I don't know if there was a predetermined plan by Woody saying, hey, this is what we need to do. But it will be interesting to see tonight what they do, especially against a team that faced 33 3-point attempts in their last game.
Right. And I think that the reason why you didn't see a whole lot of Miller Kopp is just because how dominant they were in the paint. Trace and Race and, Malik, they were having their way in the paint. And, Hood-Schifino was getting to the rim anytime he wanted to. So I think that's the reason why you didn't see a whole lot of that. But I agree with you. I think they do need to work on, work getting him more open looks. Those transition threes were awesome. They were great. It was nice to see him shoot those with confidence. That's one of the toughest 3-point shots you can hit and everything. But I would like to see him more spot up. I'd like to see an open look for him. And that's something I'm going to kind of watch out for. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe that's just not Woodson's, priority is to look for Miller Kopp to get an open look. I don't know, because they want to go with that inside out approach. But, Indiana's going to have to try to figure out a way to get him more incorporated in the offense, in my opinion.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is. It's always hard to dissect some of these games early in the season because you know what you're going to see. I mean, Indiana's favored by 32 in this game. So, I mean, to me, I want to see more 3-point shots. I want to see like you said, Kyler, can they clean up some of the free throw shot, the free throw shooting? And then what's the interior going to look like when they're challenged a little bit, I guess? Because, like I said, I don't know that Bethune-Cookman's big men are going to give them problems, but it is going to be a little bit of a different look than what they've seen through these first two exhibition and then Morehead State. I mean, this team does actually have size, and they have the ability to rotate some of those guys in. So this is going to be kind of that you mentioned, Kyler, earlier the season or earlier in the show that Indiana has to go through a grind a little bit at times in the Big Ten because of the physical style, the interior presence. I mean, I think that this is going to be a kind of like the Bud Light version of Big Ten basketball, and the fact that they at least can throw big guys and keep a big guy on the floor throughout the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We'll just see, obviously free throw shooting is going to be the main thing that people are going to be watching out for tonight. And I just expect Indiana to come out at a faster pace. That starting unit, I feel like, needs to start a little bit stronger tonight, where they're not relying on the spark of the second unit to come in and kind of wake them up a little bit. That's the things that I'm looking forward to. But other than that, tonight it's going to be an easier night for Indiana. I expect I expect them to cover, honestly, just from looking at Bethune-Cookman. But we'll see a lot.
That's a spread, baby. 31.5 points.
I expect them to cover. If I look and put up that much points, I would expect
Iowa scores a lot of points. That's their mantra. They scored 89, and they did it. They put up 33 3-point shots. So it's kind of hard to score up near 90 if you're not shooting a lot of many threes. Which I'm not saying that they have to do that. I'm just pointing out some facts.
Yeah, don't expect Indiana to shoot 33 threes tonight. I would like to see, like Dustin said, I'd like to see in the 20 range tonight. That's just me.
Yeah. I'd like to see in the 20 range only if they're hitting 8 to 10 of those. I hate the other night was great because there was not a lot, nothing was forced. Everything was in flow.
You can't be bashful though, because you're going to have to shoot it at some point this season to be successful.
Right, but that was not the game. They didn't need to that game, and that was the whole point. And I love seeing the restraint. I love seeing the ability to not do it. It's easy to chuck up a 3-pointer. Anybody can do that. Morehead State did it.
Here's the problem,
it didn't work out for them. But I like seeing a team that has the self-discipline not to shoot a shot just because.
I don't disagree with you, but the problem becomes then what happens if they play Xavier and need to shoot threes? My fear is they might hesitate and try to force feed the inside, which has been a problem at times for this team. And then if Xavier figures that out and they can't shoot the three,
they're one game in. They've got plenty. That's what games. That's exactly what these games are for. You take them differently. Well, each game was different. That game was a game where you use the inside game. Tonight might be a game where they shoot more threes, or the Xavier game may be that way. But that's what these games are for, to learn your identity, to learn how to attack different offenses that you're seeing or defenses that you're seeing. If they're giving you the three, yeah, you got to take it. If they're packing it in, and you got to shoot from the outside. If they're hanging out on the perimeter, who's going to stop Malik, Trace Jackson-Davis, and Race Thompson? Give me a break. When you sub Race Thompson out, they're bringing Malik Renew in. Who the hell's got a sub that's going to deal with that? Not many Big Ten teams. No Big Ten team is as deep in the front court that Indiana is. But that is as good as those three guys are. Nobody has three big guys that good.
And don't forget Jordan Geronimo as well, who had a great game on Monday. So,
exactly, and that's just another thing.
Yeah,
they've got three guys that could start on, I'd say, any Big Ten team. I don't think there's a Big Ten team that any of those three guys could start on. So that will give Indiana a huge plus there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Indiana is one of the deepest teams in the Big Ten and in the country. So it's nice to knowing, if Trace Jackson-Davis has an off night, whereas he's in foul trouble and everything, they got a guy like Malik Renew to come in and provide, production on the court.